Did you know that your brain can sometimes play tricks on you? Optical illusions, for instance, are fascinating instances of these cerebral hijinks. They are visual images that deceive our brains into perceiving something that doesn't match reality. Your brain, an intricate organ, processes visual information based on certain assumptions. However, these assumptions are not always accurate, which is where the magic of optical illusions comes into play. Optical illusions work by exploiting these very limitations and assumptions of our visual perception. They challenge our brain, causing us to see static images move, perceive colors that don't exist, or witness an object that defies the laws of physics. They reveal the incredible yet imperfect nature of our senses, reminding us that seeing is not always believing. Exciting, isn't it? Well, hold on to your seats, because next we will dive into some of the most mind-bending illusions known to man. But first, let's understand the science behind these fascinating phenomena. At the heart of understanding illusions lies the intricate workings of the human brain. Our brain is an incredible data processor, constantly interpreting the multitude of signals it receives from our senses, primarily through our eyes. This visual data is then transformed into images that we understand and perceive as reality. Now let's think about this. When we see an object, what are we really seeing? We're not actually seeing the object itself, but rather light that's reflected off the object. This light enters our eyes, is converted into electrical signals, and is then interpreted by our brain. The color, shape, and size of the object are all determined by how our brain interprets these signals. This is where illusions come into play. An illusion can trick our brain into perceiving something that doesn't match the physical reality. This is often achieved through manipulating light, perspective, and color. Let's take light, for instance. By altering the light source or its intensity, an illusion can create the perception of depth or three-dimensionality on a flat surface. Next, consider perspective. By playing with the arrangement of objects and the viewpoint from which we see them, illusions can make objects appear closer or farther than they actually are, larger or smaller, or even defy the laws of physics. Color, too, plays a pivotal role. Through the clever use of color and contrast, illusions can make us see colors that aren't really there, or fail to see colors that are. And here's the fascinating part. Even when we know it's an illusion, our brain still sees it the same way. That's because these visual signals are processed in the early stages of our visual system, before conscious thought comes into play. So, illusions essentially reveal the shortcuts and assumptions our brains make in interpreting visual data. They expose the gap between perception and reality, and remind us that what we see isn't always what it seems. With that knowledge, we're now ready to explore some of the most amazing optical illusions. Ever heard of the spinning dancer illusion? It's a fascinating visual spectacle that's had countless people scratching their heads in wonder. This illusion features a silhouette of a dancer spinning gracefully on the spot. But here's the catch. Depending on how you look at it, she could be spinning either clockwise or counterclockwise. Now you might be wondering how this is possible. How can the same image be interpreted in two different ways? The answer lies in the realm of ambiguous images, a fascinating area of study in the world of illusions. Ambiguous images are those that can be perceived in more than one way. They're like visual riddles that your brain tries to solve. And in the case of the spinning dancer, your brain is trying to determine which direction she's spinning in. But why does your brain see her spinning in different directions? Well, it's because the spinning dancer is a two-dimensional image that lacks visual cues about depth. In the absence of these cues, your brain tries to fill in the gaps, creating its own perception of depth and motion. And here's something even more intriguing. Some people can effortlessly switch between seeing the dancer spin clockwise and counterclockwise, while others find it incredibly challenging. This suggests that our perceptions can be influenced by individual differences in how our brains process visual information. The spinning dancer illusion serves as a reminder of how our perceptions are not always a faithful representation of reality. They're a construct of our minds shaped by a complex interplay of light, shapes, and our brain's interpretation of these elements. So the next time you come across the spinning dancer illusion, take a moment to appreciate the magic of ambiguous images and the remarkable ways in which our brains perceive the world around us. Isn't it amazing how our brain can interpret the same image in two different ways? It's a testament to the incredible complexity and adaptability of our minds. The world of illusions is truly a playground for the brain, a place where reality can be bent, twisted, and turned upside down. So let's continue to explore this fascinating world where seeing is not always believing. Now, let's take a look at the checker shadow illusion. This illusion is a captivating demonstration of how our perception can be tricked by the context in which we see things. It involves two squares that are actually the same color, but because of the surrounding context, they appear to be of different shades. Imagine a checkerboard. You see one square bathed in light and another square nestled in a shadow. You'd naturally assume that the square in the light is lighter than the one in the shadow, right? But here's where the illusion kicks in. The two squares are the very same color. I know, it's mind-bending, isn't it? But this illusion isn't just about fooling your eyes. It's about the science of how our eyes and brain work together to interpret what we see. It's about a phenomenon known as color constancy. So what exactly is color constancy? It's a feature of the human visual system that ensures the colors of objects appear the same under varying light conditions. Think about it. The color of an apple looks the same whether you're in bright sunlight or in a dimly lit room, right? That's color constancy at work. In the checker shadow illusion, our brain applies this same principle. It perceives the color of the squares in relation to the surrounding context. The square in the shadow is seen as being lighter than it actually is, because our brain knows that shadows make things appear darker. So, it compensates for the shadow, making us see the square as being lighter than it truly is. This illusion is a beautiful example of how our brain constantly adjusts and interprets the visual information it receives. It's not just about what our eyes see, but also about how our brain understands what we see. It's about the incredible way our brain adjusts to different lighting conditions, ensuring that we perceive the world around us accurately. So, the next time you look at the checker shadow illusion, remember, is not just an illusion. It's a testament to the remarkable capabilities of our visual system. This illusion shows the incredible way our brain adjusts to different lighting conditions. Ready for one more? Let's explore the impossible triangle illusion. Imagine a triangle. Simple, right? 3 sides, 3 angles, a basic shape we've known since childhood. But what if I told you there's a triangle that defies the rules of geometry and reality? This, dear listeners, is the impossible triangle illusion. At first glance, the impossible triangle looks like any regular triangle. But as you continue to observe, you'll notice something peculiar. This triangle has a twist. Its 3 bars loop back on themselves, creating a continuous, never-ending loop. It's a shape that, in reality, cannot exist. A true paradox. But why does our brain perceive this impossible figure as a plausible shape? The answer lies in the way our brain interprets perspective and 3-dimensional objects. You see, our brain is a master of filling in gaps. It uses cues from our environment to interpret 2-dimensional images as 3-dimensional shapes. This is why we can perceive depth in paintings or photographs. It's a handy skill. But it's also the reason why we can be tricked by illusions like the impossible triangle. When we look at the impossible triangle, our brain tries to reconcile the image using its understanding of perspective. It sees the 3 bars of the triangle and assumes they must connect as they do in a regular triangle. But because of the way the triangle is drawn, this interpretation is impossible. And yet, our brain insists on seeing a coherent image, thus creating the illusion of a plausible yet impossible shape. This illusion truly bends the mind, doesn't it? It challenges our perception, forcing us to question the very rules of reality. It's a wonderful reminder of the complexities of our brain and how it works tirelessly to make sense of the world around us. And so, as we marvel at the impossible triangle, we also marvel at our own brains. These incredible machines that can be deceived by a simple drawing, and yet are capable of understanding the universe and its infinite complexities. This illusion truly bends the mind, doesn't it? As we've seen, illusions can show us just how incredible our brains are. We've delved into the mesmerizing world of optical phenomena, where the seemingly impossible becomes possible. We've uncovered the fascinating science behind illusions, revealing how our brains interpret light, color, and perspective in intriguing ways. Remember the spinning dancer? The illusion that danced her way into our perception, challenging our brain's interpretation of motion. And then there was the checker shadow, a masterful trickster that played with our understanding of light and color. Lastly, we tackled the impossible triangle, a paradoxical figure that defies the rules of geometry and logic, yet exists in our visual perception. These illusions and many more are testament to the power and complexity of our brains. They invite us to question, to explore, and to marvel at the wonders of our perception. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of mind-bending illusions. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so you won't miss our next journey into the fascinating world of science.